a Miami sports fan, then there's only one store to go to, and that's Caneswear at Miami Fanwear in Davie. They're your one-stop shop for all your inner Miami CF, Canes, Dolphins, Panthers, and Marlins merchandise. They have hats, t-shirts, game day jerseys, and so much more. Located at 2511 South University Drive in Davie, and open 24/7 online at caneswear.com or innermiamiwear.com. Call them at 954-835-5597. Caneswear, the spot where inner Miami and all Miami sports fans shop.
Shield Home Security System guards your home with next-gen perimeter protection, 24/7 monitoring, and interior motion sensing. And right now, get a free Sloman Shield security system and doorbell camera, all professionally installed, for free.
Shield your world, the Sloman Shield.
It is Monday night. Raw just goes off the air. That means Squared Circle Digest. Sean Stanley is on the air. It is the Raw recap. And, of course, taking your questions in the chat or on the Instagram or Twitter. I apologize there. Something caught my eye in the room. But you can catch it on Instagram or Twitter at Sean_Stanley11. And Raw was not terrible tonight. Was not terrible. Actually, a pretty good Raw leading up again. Now we are one show away from WrestleMania. We'll get next Monday, which they've already said it will be Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns will be involved in that. So, eyes are going to be on that leading up to the big WrestleMania weekend. Of course, you got SmackDown, the Hall of Fame that Friday, which is probably why they're doing the Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar lead-in on the Raw, so it doesn't affect the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Raw got started. Everybody got all excited. Everybody thought Stone Cold Steve Austin was in the house, and, of course, it was the great Kevin Owens in a bald cap and came to the ring, and then it's amazing how, the glass shatters and the place goes bananas. And then they see a bald guy walk out, and you can see it elevate a little bit more, and then they're like, oh, wait, that's Kevin Owens. As they're zooming in, you can just hear the air go out of the building like, oh, man, we got had. I think overall it was a great promo by KO leading up to, I don't know if you're going to see Stone Cold on a Raw or anything building up to this. I just think the name attached to it is all he needs to do. You probably won't see him at a Raw. It'll be KO doing all the leg work, almost like what Cena did with The Undertaker that one year. It was Undertaker and Cena, and Undertaker basically squashed him in the WrestleMania match. But John Cena was the only one at Raw building it up. And then that led into what you see today with KO kind of doing the leg work, which, again, you attach Stone Cold to it. Not a lot of leg work that you have to do, but the leg work is there nonetheless. And now he is, that promo, I think, kind of solidified it. Then they throw the beer in the ring and he drops it. doing the exact opposite of what Stone Cold would have done. I thought on this show, a lot of the promo work that they did to build up the WrestleMania matches. You saw the Edge and AJ Styles, and then Seth Rollins kind of got involved in it at the end of the show there. Edge comes out and costs Seth Rollins. Rollins starts freaking out, says he will not allow Raw to go on the air next week if he does not get his WrestleMania match. So ultimately, again, if for those that don't know or may not be aware, the reports are that Cody Rhodes will be the opponent for Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. There were some rumors that he may appear at the Raw before WrestleMania, and then there was also some news and rumors saying he would not appear until at the WrestleMania event. So that will always be interesting to see how that goes from there. They kept the women's tag team match going again. You saw Zelina and Carmella get into it in the back. Looked like there was a little bit of friction between the two of them. You had Shayna Baszler and Natalya take on Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. Shayna and Natalya get the victory over them as well. So now they beat Naomi and Sasha on SmackDown, and they beat Liv and Rhea on Raw, which means they're probably not winning the titles. So I can think either Rhea and Liv or Sasha and Naomi will probably end up walking out of WrestleMania with the tag titles, but it still will be a 4-way tag team match for those straps. And not a bad build-up. I mean, again, I just think at some point you get tired of seeing the same. Now I've watched Natalya and Shayna take on Naomi and Sasha, and I've watched them take on Liv and Rhea. And then next week, I'm sure they're probably going to do more of the same. Actually, no, I'm sorry. On Raw, I believe they're doing an 8-man tag now. So it'll be Naomi, Sasha, Rhea, Liv versus Natalya, Shayna, Carmella, and Zelina. So now you've got all 8 competitors in one match. So running out of things to do. Luckily, WrestleMania only a week away, and then hopefully a reset button might get hit or something, and we can refresh some of this this nonsense that's going on right now. Appreciate that. I got my dad in on chat. That's great stuff. Also going on there, you saw RK Bro, the Raw tag team titles. Again, you saw RK Bro, you saw Street Profits, you saw Alpha Academy. This time it was a tag team match, Alpha Academy against RK Bro. RK Bro gets the victory. And like last week, RK Bro versus Street Profits, RK Bro gets the victory. Alpha Academy comes out and lays them out. So what do we do this week? Hey, we let Alpha Academy get pinned by RK Bro, and we'll send Street Profits out to lay everybody out. So next week, my thinking is it will probably be Street Profits against Alpha Academy. RK Bro will lay them all leading into WrestleMania. So we'll see how that goes. The 24/7 title is getting ridiculous. I love that they've given a title, but this whole thing with Tamina and Reggie and Akira Tozawa is just enough already. Enough. Almost lays out a challenge to anybody. It'll be interesting to see who accepts this challenge. I think Apollo Crews and Commander Aziz are probably going to be written off TV for a while, seeing as you just had both of them basically job out to Almost. So I got to think that there's going to be probably a new gimmick for Apollo Crews. This one looks like it's ran its course, and Commander Aziz is now a joke. This is the second week in the row that he's been beat by Omos, or however you want to pronounce it, in easy fashion. So for a 7-foot giant that can't get over on Omos at all, Omos throws him around like a teddy bear and everything else. Commander Aziz he'll probably get cut after WrestleMania. I'm sure of that. Also on Raw, let's see the Edge, AJ Styles. They got that rolling now. AJ Styles returns from injury, cuts a great promo, and then, Seth Rollins comes out still looking for his way in, but Edge at the end ends up using a chair shot to AJ Styles, and now it will be AJ Styles and Edge at WrestleMania. Not that that was ever in doubt, but for the most part, that is where that is leading to. And thankfully, that did not change, because I would have been very upset if that changed. So overall, I thought Raw had delivered on, the match and the stuff leading up to what it needed to do. And now we head to SmackDown. You got one Raw left before the granddaddy of them all, which is WrestleMania. And I got to tell you, it was, like I said, it was not a terrible Raw, but it wasn't a Raw to sit there and be like, jump for joy as well. Some people still thought, I guess, Cody Rhodes would show up on this Raw. Not going to happen. Ultimately, I think what you're going to end up seeing is Cody probably debuting at WrestleMania. And again, there's still some question on if he has signed with WWE. All reports show that he has, but you never know until they show up. It was almost, you can almost sit there and see. It looks like the plan now, looking through some of the notes here, that Omos is in store for a surprising WrestleMania opponent. And this is from Fightful. They learned that as of this weekend, the planned opponent is going to be former WWE champion Bobby Lashley. So you got Omos and it looks like Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania. Again, everything's subject to change. And that's if Lashley gets cleared as well. So there's some of your WrestleMania going toward WrestleMania matches. WrestleMania Sunday starting to take shape. You're going to have Roman Reigns and Lesnar closing the WrestleMania weekend, which I think is rightfully so. I'm going to guess, and this is just a guess on my part, that Ronda Rousey Charlotte will probably close night one of WrestleMania. So that's Saturday, WrestleMania Saturday, which Stone Cold is a part of, will probably end up being Charlotte Flair, Ronda Rousey for the SmackDown Women's Championship. That will probably end up being your main event. There is a angle going on right now with Bianca Belair that she is injured. Not sure if that's going to lead into something, maybe a new opponent for Becky Lynch, or if it'll just lead into Bianca Belair, doing the old college try and toughing out an injury and showing up at WrestleMania to take on Becky Lynch. I want to look at some of the ratings from SmackDown this past Friday night. SmackDown ranked number 10 overall on TV. In the 18 to 49 demo. Rampage drew its lowest total in demo since it started on TNT. But again, remember, it was preempted due to the NCAA basketball. But SmackDown was down this week. It was a 2.147, down slightly, but the demo was up. So the 18 to 49 demo is up. The overall was down from a 2.2 to a 2.14, and about 755,000 in the 18 to 49 demo for a 0.58 rating. It was down about 4%, but it was up 1% on the viewership there. Those are really the only matches I want to see. I hope there aren't 3 hours of dread waiting to get those matches. Steve, there's always 3 hours of dread, my man. Always 3 hours of dread. You're going to have, I can tell you some of the matches that are going to be, I don't know which days. And you know what? Let me see if they have lined up some of the WrestleMania matches. I can let me see what the WrestleMania weekend looks like. Because there is, again, Saturday and Sunday. I know what some of the matches are already. I just don't know what days they're going to be on. And, of course, everything's subject to change, of course, because it is pro wrestling. Your title matches, they don't have the dates exactly yet, But when you're looking at some of you have Drew McIntyre versus Happy Corbin. You're going to end up with Pat McAfee, Austin Theory, Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville, the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Raw Tag Team Champions. Finn Balor, Damian Priest will probably be added to WrestleMania as well. So you're gonna have some undercard. But ultimately, I think a lot of this is probably one of the WrestleManias where, there's not a lot of dread, so to speak, because I am interested to see what they do with Logan Paul with the Mysterios. They kind of tonight on Raw, Miz did the thing where he stole Rey Mysterio's mask, which anybody that watched WCW TV knows what Rey Mysterio looks like because he's already been unmasked and he wrestled without the mask for over, I want to say 2 years, at least a year and a half or two, but again, they always go back and they do the old, it's sacred. The mask of a luchador is sacred. But, Eric Bischoff took all the masks off everybody. Psychosis, Juventud Guerrera, Rey Mysterio, all of them were unmasked at one point down there. So, again, but I am interested to see what they do with Logan Paul because, as always, every time they bring a celebrity in, even when they brought Snooki in, she did a backflip springboard elbow and something off the ropes. So they always show a little bit of their athleticism, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Logan Paul and with the Mysterios as well. Of course, you've got Pat McAfee, who everybody knows, if everybody's watched NXT, he can go. He had a great feud with Adam Cole when he fought Adam Cole one-on-one, and then he also did a War Games style match with the team that he had put together against Adam Cole in the Undisputed Era. So, again, Pat McAfee, I know he can go. Not worried there. Of course, Johnny Knoxville, very interested to see what they do with Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville, because I don't know that Johnny Knoxville has one athletic bone in his body. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they do. It's going to have to be a comedic match or somebody come out that Sammy hires or something maybe and ends up helping him beat Sami Zayn so that they can continue with the Sammy got screwed type angle that they've been running for some time now. The SmackDown Tag Team Champions, you got the Usos against Boogs and Nakamura. I'm almost certain Boogs and Nakamura will probably end up leaving with the tag team titles. I can see the Usos dropping the tag team titles and Roman Reigns walking out with the undisputed titles at WrestleMania. And then, of course, you got KO and Stone Cold, which all indications says this is probably going to end up being a fight. It says it's going to be a KO show, but both of them said they're going to whoop each other's ass. So at this point, if they're not touching, this may end up being a disappointment when you look at what they got going on there, because, again, they've hyped up a lot of this, and we'll have to see where they go from here on that end of it. Tomorrow night, we'll be back here again. Of course, it's the WWE NXT show, so we'll have see where they go from there. It's Braun Breaker. They still had Ziggler working on Raw as the WWE NXT champion. They actually took on the Mysterios. Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler took on Dominic and Rey Mysterio, and that was part with the Miz in there. So they've got Ziggler pulling double duty as the NXT champion. All signs point to, you know what I just thought about too? Gable Stevenson put out a tweet, and then he said he was going to be at WrestleMania 38. Just got an idea here. Sami Zayn, Johnny Knoxville. Sami Zayn's going to need some muscle. I'm wondering if that's going to be the spot where they put Gable Stevenson in and he ends up taking down Sami Zayn and helping Johnny Knoxville win that match there, because he tweeted out, "I will be at WrestleMania 38," and then it was taken down. Him and Braun Breaker are rumored to be the top names that will be heading to Raw and kind of being the driving force for those two. They're going to get kind of skyrocketed in. It would make a lot of sense, I think, maybe to have him go in a match and just kind of toss around Sami Zayn for a while, get a quick pin, help out Johnny Knoxville, or Johnny Knoxville gets thrown around by Stanley for a while, maybe crawls out of the ring, tags out to a partner, which is Gable Stevenson there, and see where that goes from there, because he did tweet out that he was going to be at WrestleMania 38, and then as quickly as he did, he deleted it. But of course, once you tweet it, somebody's probably going to get it, and it was already screenshotted, and it is there. So now that I look through some of these matches, unless they just bring them out as a guest, which they've done before, you've seen it done many times, and then, nothing else happens. I mean, and again, everybody's thinking Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins. Could they bring Gable Stevenson into that against Seth Rollins? That would be I think that might be a big issue with the fans, because they want to see, I believe, Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins go, where if they brought in Gable Stevenson, I think it would be a letdown, and I think you're setting up Stevenson for a failure before he even gets started, because I think everybody wants to see, Rollins and Rhodes go at that match there. So again, very interested to see how they go. And Steve, 100% agree with you there. The matches on the undercard, again, they can drag out, but usually the WrestleMania crowd, because it's more of an international crowd and a big, there's a lot of variety of people in that crowd. It's usually a pretty good electrified crowd for the whole night. It's not like your Raw and SmackDown crowds where sometimes they're just sitting there and it's dead. They usually keep the energy up, and it sounds more closer to what you hear on Wednesday nights with the AEW shows. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. The early days of WrestleMania, every match was must see. Now we're hoping we won't fall asleep waiting for the few matches we want to see. Yeah, no, I mean, but again, I think a lot of those, though, before, remember, those days you didn't have 12 pay-per-views a year at the beginning of WrestleManias. I mean, now back in the day, you had WrestleMania, then they created Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series. So those are your four that they had, every year. And then they decided, hey, we need to sit here and add pay-per-views in, and now you get what you get, where every month you're getting a pay-per-view. It's more difficult to see and build up and make everything more interesting every 30 days than it was every 3 months. You could build storylines from Royal Rumble to WrestleMania to where they meant something. I mean, look what they did with Hogan and Andre. I mean, I think he ripped the chain off of his neck around what would have been Royal Rumble time, which would have been January, and they didn't fight till the end of March, April. So all that time up was building. And back then, you had your squash matches. You didn't have your Raws necessarily like you do now. So, you didn't have all this television time, where to get eyes on your product on TV, you've also got to put on almost main event matches there. So now it's gone into, you've got 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, 2 hours of NXT, 9 hours of TV a week, plus you got a pay-per-view every month. It's a lot of stuff to try to keep somebody interested in every aspect of it. Now you do have your times. I was so sure Andre was going to win that match and was shocked when he didn't. I think, I don't know if you've heard the whole thing. Carlos Arza, what's up, buddy? Don't know if you heard the story about Hogan when he said, he didn't know if Andre was going to let him body slam him. So he was going to sit there and he was like, look, if Andre didn't want me to slam him, I'm not going to slam Andre. And that was the whole point of the match, was, Hogan being able to slam Andre and then go for the leg drop. So ultimately, again, when you look at it, that story was being told there, but Andre didn't have to pass that torch to Hogan. That helped elevate Hogan up to, immortal status at that point. That was a big thing that happened in Mexico. Yeah, no, I know. there's a lot of times. I mean, there's been a lot of videos out where Andre had been actually slammed a few times, but it's definitely, that helped elevate Hogan to the immortal status, really, with that feud right there. Because again, remember, WrestleMania 1 was really celebrity driven. You had Muhammad Ali, you had Cyndi Lauper, the Liberace. I can't remember how Billy Martin was there. You had so much, it was so celebrity driven, and it was Hogan, Mr. T against Paul Orndorff and Piper with Snuka and Orton in the corners. You had Wendy Richter against Fabulous Moolah with Cyndi Lauper. Again, it was celebrity driven one. Then you had WrestleMania 2, which was the one where it was in 3 different locations. And then that was the one where Hogan fought Bundy in the cage, and then you rolled through on, and there you go. Andre was a special character, and he hated ego people. He did. That's why he hated Savage. Everything I've heard is that he hated Savage. He hated Savage with a passion. At least every story I've seen and every shoot interview I've heard and everything there was that he just did not get along with Randy Savage, and Savage knew it. And the other thing was that he was really afraid of snakes, especially, like he was very, very afraid of the snakes. So that was something else that was interesting with that whole thing. I mean, you look at that guy and it's amazing that, but he was definitely afraid of those snakes. He did not like it. That was not one of the things where it's like, he's trying to play a role or anything. That was probably Andre, truthfully. I thought it was because he hated Macho's baby oil. Probably. But, again, Macho came across, he rubbed some people the wrong way. He was very boisterous, I guess, in the back. It wasn't, he was Randy Savage, I don't know what I think there's ego in everybody in wrestling, though. You almost have to go out there and perform in front of, and especially back in those days, because in those days you got paid for where your spot was in the card. It ain't like today where everybody gets, paid no matter what, So there was no guarantees back then. You got paid, from your spot on the card, or, as Andre case, you got paid to be that, that spectacle of Andre the Giant. That's why he was able to make such a great career, because everybody just brought him in he was a spectacle. He wasn't even, he was above superstar. That's why he was the first person in the WWE Hall of Fame. He was just so far above everything else that was on. And I apologize. I think something's happening with my internet here at the house. So if I'm freezing up, I apologize. I don't know. I'm on Ethernet, so I'm not sure what's going on there. I have to double check. The wire might have been going down. I know the audio, I believe, is still good. Steve Chapman said and Stud. Yeah, no, I think he got better along with Stud than with most of those guys. I know he loved the referee that always traveled with him. Short guy, beard. I can't think of his name right off the top of my head right now. The Iron Sheik. It's funny, because I want to watch Young Rock. Just because I want to see, those stories coming out, just little things. And again, I know some of those they're stretched, the truth stretched out in some of those stories and things like that. Tim White. Thank you, Steve Chapman. Tim White. That guy was Andre's right-hand man. Right-hand man, dude. It was just Iron Sheik, another one who rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, just because when you're referring to Andre, he took wrestling to a whole new level, Carlos Urza. He added that spectacle level, but honestly, it was Vince McMahon's vision to take wrestling to the level that he took it. That's why he made sure Andre was involved in it. And he knew the key moment when Andre was, I think they waited a little bit too long, but also Andre's, health deteriorated a lot quicker, I think, than anybody thought it would. I think the ultimate, thing for Hogan was going to have to beat Hogan or beat Andre, to solidify his whole run. He had done, he had beaten, Piper, he'd beaten Bundy, your Kamalas, he'd beaten Big Boss Man, all that. And that was the key to elevate him up. The problem was Andre's health was deteriorating so quickly that they weren't able to make, again, they did it in front of 93,000. So when I say that, I think they would have liked it to be more, the Andre that could, move around a little bit more. Not that Andre was ever, the big guy that was going to, run the ropes or anything else like that. But, he was, he's always a cash cow, especially in territories, and again, he was built up that way to be the guy, almost, not that he was undefeated. Well, let me see. I don't know that he ever lost. They cut his hair the one time. I don't think he was ever beaten. So then Hogan became the piece that was, the piece that Hogan had to beat to, become immortal. Because again, Hogan was already superstar, above everybody else. Hogan, when he won the title from the Iron Sheik, he jetted off. But to get there, Andre was always seen as the person going to be in his way. And when that turn happened, it allowed Vince and them to take Hogan and go all the way up. It was a masterpiece from Vince. You're right. It was his vision. No, 100%. You could see it. I've heard that Andre's could have been treated, but he didn't want to risk hurting his career and it cut his life short. And yeah, I don't know all that. I don't know all the medical stuff. Back then, again, you're looking at today. Back then, I don't know that a lot of those guys trusted. And again, remember, those guys missed time. They missed paydays. Not that Andre probably, I'm sure Vince took care of him. Don't get me wrong, but he's probably also not making the money he's making if he's actually wrestling. Those guys used to, injuries didn't stop those guys back then. They had to wrestle through injuries. It wasn't, like it is today where, hey, I can go away for 3 months and clean out my shoulder and my knee, and I'm still going to get, paid my salary and this and that. No, back then you didn't wrestle, you didn't get paid, which again, you're talking about Andre the Giant. I'm sure Vince took care of him and Vince took care of some other guys, but you're still not making the money you're making if you're wrestling every night. No doubt. Sean, do you think Amos will be a challenger for the WWE title? I hope not anytime soon. He's not ready. He's not ready, Tony. And I mean that in the nicest way. The guy's very talented. He's got a move set that is very good. But when you watch him, I don't see world champion on him right now. Do I think he could possibly get there with some seasoning? Yes. Right now it looks too forced to me. It looks too forced. Everything he did with Commander Aziz and Apollo, a lot of it looks just too forced. He's not fluid yet. He's not confident. He's confident in his ability, but you can tell he's not confident in the persona that he's trying to get over in the ring. He's still thinking of things. He's still thinking it through. You can see he's progressing. Don't get me wrong. But I think he's still a little ways away. Because again, when you get in there with Roman and Brock and some of those guys, again, you saw what happened with Braun Strowman. I couldn't think of his name the other night. I kept calling him Adam Shearer, but Braun Strowman, the first time he got in there with Brock, what happened? He stiffed Brock. Brock punched him right in the face. You know what I'm saying? So again, those are the things that you have to worry about if you're Omos. Do you feel confident enough in your ability? And I'm sure he does, but I do not think that he's ready. Down the line, maybe. Again, maybe you give him that the U.S. title, the Intercontinental title. You come up with something for him because, again, you're building up as this monster. You're building up as this monster. Once he loses, what happens? Commander Aziz, you built him up, as this monster for Apollo Crews, and in the last 2 weeks he jobbed to Omos. You're no monster to me anymore. You're nothing. We had the best of both worlds, pure wrestling and entertainment. No, definitely. Definitely. And again, that was, again, Vince's whole thing was making it and understanding the sports entertainment side of it, and, again, a lot of that had to do with the drug testing and other things that was going on at that same time. But ultimately, he understood if you're not doing the entertainment part of it, nobody's really going to come to see the sports and art part of pro wrestling. And that he learned from his dad. I mean, when you look back, think about the champions his dad had, Bruno Sammartino and all those. And then Vince's first, when Vince started getting into it, Bob Backlund was his champion for Vince McMahon Jr. That is similar to your Bruno Sammartino. They're both great wrestlers. Bruno was a little bit more better on the mic, and he was over more with the, the Pennsylvania crowds and things like that. But ultimately, they're both great athletes, great wrestlers, not so much, personality driven, which, Vince Jr. saw that he needed to have that, and he started tearing up the territories, which, again, all those stories were that he told his dad he would not, but he went ahead and did it anyways. Could you see NWO returning? That would boost ratings. Good show, first timer. Michael Roby, appreciate that. I don't see the NWO returning at this point. No, I think with everything that's gone on, they, you take that off. I think you let NWO go. That was a once, just like DX. You're not going to bring back DX. You're not bringing back the Four Horsemen. That's been done before, and you saw some of the last resemblance of that. I just think let the NWO go. Hollywood, Kevin, Scott, when you brought them back in that last run, could have been better, yes, but at least they got another run in WWE, and just let it go there. And you're 100% can't have NWO without Hall. Taker was Taker works with a lot of the big guys. That's not a given. Becky's promo work tonight was fantastic. But that's what none of that surprises me. She is such a student of the game and the craft and understanding and puts a lot of attention to detail. Her and Seth are the same, again, and they probably drive each other and push each other to one up each other and try to be. That seems like that those two seem like they would try to one up each other in their relationship too. Let's see, Sean, they put the title on the Great Khali. What's the difference between Omos and Khali? There's no difference between Omos and Khali. But how long did Khali have the title? Once you put it on those guys, what do you do next? That's the problem with the Great Khali. It's like, dude, they put the belt on Khali to build up Khali because he couldn't get his damn self over. The title made Khali. Omos, if he keeps going the direction he's going, he's going to gain without a title. You don't have to put a title on everybody. A title doesn't mean shit. A title is a prop. A title is really a prop, basically. The wrestlers need to build the titles. The titles should not build the wrestlers. And that's what happened in Khali's case. The title helped elevate him because he became former WWE champion or WWE champion or now they have something to like, oh, this guy, he's a former champion. Okay, he must be good. But almost, I don't think that he will need that. If he keeps progressing the way he's progressing, again, remember, he's just gone into singles not too long ago. He wasn't doing a lot. So, you can throw a title on him, but what? For what? To fail? Who's he beating? Lesnar? Roman Reigns? Who are you putting him over right now to put a title on him? At this point, who? If you want to put a heavyweight title on him, who do you beat? No, Omos is 100% better than what Khali was. I'm not stating that. What I'm saying though is that just because every big guy doesn't need a belt. Everybody doesn't have to have a belt. There's too many damn belts now. Starting to be like Oprah. In your opinion, who was the best tag team? Carlos Herza. Wow. You know, there's so many good tag teams. And now, but see, I was more along the lines of, to me, the tag teams were your Midnight Express, Bobby Eaton and Dennis Condrey, the original Midnight Express, the Fabulous Ones, Steve Keirn, Stan Lane, the Fantastics. I liked the NWA tag teams back in the day. The tag teams back in the day. Then you started getting your Road Warriors who brought in the big muscle, but I always liked the more agile teams and the ones that did the double teaming, your Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard. Those were, the tag teams that I like. I don't really know that I have a best tag team. Yeah, the Brain Busters. No, I 100%. And then now you've got, Young Bucks. They're great for what they do. I'm not very big into, all the flips and everything else like that, but they're a great tag team. FTR, a great tag team. The Briscoes, they're a great tag team. I love any team that can sit there and do double teams and make that tag team, it means something. Make tag team wrestling mean something. If you're just going to put two guys together, and no disrespect to RK Bro, but they really just threw them two together because ultimately they wanted Orton to turn on Riddle and it to be a feud, and then they took it and they took to each other, and now they've created something. They've got some magic there. No, the Samoans were great. The Valiant Brothers. Again, I don't think there's any. I think tag team wrestling is at its best when you have a true tag team. The Bushwhackers, I think I like the Sheepherders. When they were the Sheepherders, I like the Sheepherders better than the Bushwhackers. I thought the Bushwhackers went a little bit too much comic book, whereas the Sheepherders was all about the blood and the money and the titles. Do you think WCW had better tag teams than WWF back in the days? Let's look at this. What do we got? WCW back in the days. Okay, let's look at WCW, WWF. When you look at the tag teams, so WCW at that time, are we talking the Steiners or when the NWO? Which part of Carlos? Which part of WCW are we going into? When the Steiners were there, Harlem Heat, your Hollywood Blondes. Which part of WCW are we attacking here? The Steiners. Okay, yeah, no. I think WCW at that time probably had a better. Man, but they still had. I think WCW NWA was better than WWF in the tag teams. But I think WWF also, they had the bigger teams, right? Because at that point, I believe the Road Warriors were there, the Natural Disasters. You're looking at the bigger guys now. The WWF had the bigger teams, but I think WCW had the more athletic, which had better tag team matches than some of the things in WWF. I'm trying to think here. Harlem Heat. Road Warriors. Look at one point you had what? Andre and Haku. I wouldn't want to get in a tag team match with those two. Even when you look at, you had the Hart Foundation. But you had the Killer Bees, which I love Jim Brunzell and Brian Blair as a faction all time. I loved me the Freebirds, man. I love me some Terry Gordy. I love me some Buddy Roberts. I love me some Michael Hayes. And then when they threw Jimmy Garvin in there as well afterwards, man, dude, I loved me some Freebirds, man. Especially the Von Erichs and the feuds there. As a faction, man, you got the Horsemen, you got NWO, DX, more recent bias, but I honestly, and me, I would probably have them like in top 5, 6, maybe 7, probably the least. But then you're looking, but I'm also looking, at the group that Heenan had, Heyman had. I mean, when you look at the factions that those guys had, especially Heyman at one point when he had Zbyszko, Rude, Austin, dude, the Dangerous Alliance. That was a good faction as well. And I'm looking at it from work rate as well when I throw some of those guys in there as well. Michael Roby, thanks, man. I appreciate that. It means a lot. You think you'll book guests? Love to hear from Booker T. I've reached out to a few. I'm hoping to get some back. Some of those interviews will probably be recorded, and then what I'll do is play them here, just because the time, again, we go on right after each show. So I'm on at 11 after Raw, 10 after NXT, 10 after AEW Dynamite, and then I'm on right after SmackDown, usually watching AEW Rampage live. But ultimately, we will be shelving some interviews with independent workers, some that you may not have heard of, and then also some interviews with talent that you've heard from the past and the present. So hopefully that will be coming up. Mike Harlem Heat was just share. Yeah, I love the one when Booker T. Oh man, I can't remember exactly what he did. They play it all the time though when he was talking to Hogan and at the pay-per-view, and he forgets that they're live. Yeah. Got a newbie question. Was Hogan and Macho Man enemies in real life? I think they had a love-hate relationship, more savage. At least from things I've read, heard, Savage was very controlling of his life, I guess. However you want to look at it, you want to control every aspect of his life. And there were some things that Hogan did and his family did that he didn't like, and he thought it was Hogan betraying him. But again, everybody has their own. There's what is it? There's three truths to every story, So again, I know that they had not talked for a while. I think they had smoothed some things over right before he passed away. But again, it's wrestling, so you believe half of what you see and nothing of what you hear in a way. Especially with that, because you never know if it could have been leading to something else down the line. Talk about repetition every week in the early 80s in World Class Championship Wrestling was the Von Erichs and Freebirds every single week, but it was always good. It was always good, and they always upped it. That was the one thing, and that's what I don't mind if you have some of the same stuff, but it doesn't make sense to have the same exact match. If you're going to have the match, you're going to run it back the next week. Why have a clean finish? Why have somebody get pinned? Why not be a disqualification, a count out, something like that to make reason why you're running it back? You don't run it back just because, I've watched this guy get pinned 3 times by the same damn guy. That's one of the things that, and back then, again, you always had, the Freebirds, they jump them, right? They'd always jump them before the pinfall, and then they'd run it back, and then they throw Buddy Roberts in there with Gordy and then Michael Hayes would come out, they would just always, there'd be something else different, I guess, in a way. It wasn't just run it back to run it back. They ran it back to make it lead to something ultimately. 80s. Yeah, you know what, man? Bulldogs, Valentine, Beefcake, U.S. Express, Wyndham and Rotundo. Yeah, but you still had the Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express, the Horsemen. You had the Koloffs. You had, there was a lot of tag teams over there. Hell, you could even throw in the 80s before, his accident, you had Magnum TA and Dusty as a tag team for a while over there. I think, NWA, WCW had a little bit better, what do you think about Public Enemy? They were good if you like to see Crash Test Dummies. That was honestly, nothing against them. I just thought they knew what they needed to do to get over. And that was to, try to roughhouse and put people through tables. And unfortunately, they ran into APA. And that didn't work out too well for them. So, yeah, I think they were good in the ECW. I think they should have stayed there. I think they thought they got a little bit bigger than what they had to do, and they wanted to see if they could make some more money. And grass ain't always greener on the other side. They poured gas on the Freebirds, Von Erichs, Michael Hayes, jumping Mike Von Erich. Yeah. Yep. 100%. But also, I think, too, the cage, with Hayes as the special guest referee and him slamming the cage on Kerry's head and costing them the titles there. I mean, there was so much with the Hayes and then the Freebirds, the cream, the hair cream that they had put in Kevin's eyes at one time, but then they ended up putting it on Buddy Roberts and he lost all his hair. However you want to look at it. So, Tony, taking a look at you got here. What about the Nasty Boys? I mean, again, I think they're like Public Enemy, man. I just you know what you're going to get with them. You're getting a fight, I guess, is the best way to say it. I mean, the Nasty Boys and Public Enemy to me are two of the same. You have to, I believe they have a place on the card. I think they did, very well for what they needed to do, but I don't rate them up there as a great tag team. Again, I look at work rate. I don't look at just, they're over with this group or that group. Who did the Nasty Boys elevate? That was one of the things that set it off. Star Wars World Class. Yeah. Yep. 100%. And then they even did the thing with Fritz Von Erich with the heart attack. They did so many different things with that whole thing with the Freebirds and the Von Erichs. I mean, it didn't end. It didn't end, man. And you always had the Christmas night at the Sportatorium, man. You always knew it was going to be a good show, man. That was good time there. I mean, World Class Championship Wrestling was let's see. Nasty Boys, okay tag team. Yeah, no, they were okay. Now this is my kind of wrestling talk. Love the old days. So much better than today. Not even close. I just think, again, it's like everything, Steve. I mean, when we talk, football, I say this all the time. It evolves, man. It evolves. And you have so many athletic guys right now that, again, it's funny because I saw a video clip, and in 1987, Scott Steiner is doing a 450 splash. It's at an independent show, and he kind of lands on his feet and then dives on his opponent. But he was doing that back then, and he wasn't as big, as he was now. But anybody that knows Scott Steiner, when he first debuted with Rick on WCW, he's still cut pretty big, and he was doing 450 splashes. And that's just tremendous, man. Just tremendous. And again, when you look at, these guys these days, and one of the things that I think of too is when you look at some of these guys, their size these days, right? And I always look back at Mankind, Mick Foley, Cactus Jack, however you want to look at him. He always said, I use my whole body as a weapon. And in a way, that's what these guys are doing in a way. They're just using every form of their body. They're jumping in the air. They're hooking your head. They're using momentum to swing you down and everything else like that. It's just different kayfabe. And I don't know that there's really a lot of kayfabe these days. I guess there is. I guess I don't know, man. I think with social media, all that is really out the window, man. It's just, I don't know, man. I just, again, I remember, when I was doing, like I said, we flew up to Missouri to drive to Illinois, and we were doing a masked gimmick at the time. And I don't know where it is now. It fell down. I can't find it. But when we drove into the town in Illinois, again, different time, we had the masks on. That was the kayfabe. Nobody saw us. And we keep the mask on until we were 3-4 towns away. And then, we had zipped up hoodies and everything else. Then we would take it off, and basically we'd have a whole different wardrobe. That's kind of how we did it. I mean, There was times, I mean, in Puerto Rico for the longest, you stopped at you stopped at, gas stations, hotels, something else to switch out so that the babies arrived together and the heels arrived together. It wasn't, you didn't show up to the building together. Um, but it's crazy now. They live longer. Before, wrestlers would die in their early 30s. Yeah, but they lived harder in those days. You basically wrestled to make money to go out and party. And 80s was a whole different environment. Nowadays, a lot of these guys are investing this money. It's a whole different environment. I mean, you live like a rock star. I mean, look at Ric Flair. He lived this gimmick. Anytime you've watched anything he's done, I mean, every dime he earned, he's basically spent. Back, it was real to me, damn it. It was real to me. It was real to me. Sean, when did you wrestle? I wrestled from 1999 to 2014. These damn webcams. Hold on a minute. See if that doesn't help there. I wrestled from 1999 to 2014 here in South Florida mainly. I did tour Peru for 2 to 3, ended up being about 3 weeks. But mostly Florida area. I did go up to Illinois as I said once or twice, and so things like that. Memphis was a hot territory for a long time. All the territories were hot for a while, I mean, I think, again, a lot of them though, when you did you did the promotions, if you look back at it, again, you had Jerry Lawler who ran, a lot of the Mid-South stuff, the Memphis stuff, and Brian Christopher, his son. Fritz Von Erich ran Texas. Von Erich's his son. Eddie Graham ran Florida. Mike Graham, his son. You know what I'm saying? Like, you really, when you looked at the territories, who did you trust? Your family. And that's kind of what you saw. Flair was a technical wrestler, no doubt. Oh, no, 100%. 100%. And he was not only a technical wrestler, he was technical on the aspect of a match. I mean, he knew exactly how it needed to be. Not that he sat there and laid it out, but he already envisioned, okay, this is what we're going to do. Him and Ricky Steamboat put on classics. Even him and Terry Funk. If you watch some of those, when Terry Funk came into WCW, if you watch those matches, man, dude, it was just, you can see that, and they just go, man. And he like puts his foot on the gas and just goes. He's so damn smooth. So smooth. And he knows, okay, I need to let him beat me up. Okay. Oh, got to do something to cut him off. Cheat move. Boom. Eye poke, whatever. It's just awesome, man, how fluid he is. Let's see. They got the best of Ric Flair promo on YouTube. Yeah, I might check that out. I love him and Jay Lethal going back and forth. That was one of my favorite. Him and Jay Lethal on TNA. If you got a chance to go check that out, him and like I said, him and Jay Lethal going back and forth. What was the word on the street in Florida about the Bruiser Brody case? I mean, I can tell you the hearsay that I heard was that basically he was murdered. I mean, that was what I mean, what was the hearsay here? I mean, I didn't hear that from anybody. I mean, I've seen reports and things like that, Carlos, but I mean, I haven't talked to anybody that was there or any of that stuff, so I don't know any information that you may have, but yeah, everything I have is hearsay or fourth, fifth person down. But it was basically that that he was murdered over money, or he wanted money and he was murdered over that. Steve, thanks, my man. All right, guys, it's midnight now here on the East Coast. So I'm going to cut it out for the night. Don't forget the Big O show comes your way 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Hopefully, Teron Armstead maybe signed if he's not already, or if he's already gone. But let me see here, Carlos. I think you just sent something else in because I heard that was like the pinfall of wrestling in Puerto Rico. It definitely for a little while, yeah. There was a lot of people didn't know if they wanted to go back over there. and it did hurt him for a little bit. Tony, thanks, my man. Carlos, Steve, Tony, Michael, all you guys, man. I appreciate you guys being on here with me for the last hour talking some pro wrestling. We'll be back here tomorrow, 10 o'clock on the East Coast. Join me and let's talk more wrestling. We'll talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of WWE NXT. Braun Breaker is supposed to confront Dolph Ziggler, so we'll see what happened. Mike jumped in here. Tolly's father ran Southwest Texas area. That was. That was, and then the Houston, Houston was Geigel, wasn't it? No, not Geigel. Who was the Houston guy? I want to say it was, I want to say it's Geigel, but I don't think that's who it was. Don't forget you can follow me on Instagram or Twitter at Sean_Stanley11. I tweet out South Florida sports, wrestling, some NASCAR, and some other things there. So I talk a little bit about everything. Carlos, looking forward to the next show as well, my man. Great talking to you. Pleasure meeting everybody that jumped on here for the first time. Giordano, I appreciate you. And we'll continue to keep the great work every day, every show. I apologize for the internet connection at the beginning. It looks like it's cleared up a little bit now. So in the words of the great Gordon Soley, so long from the Sunshine State.